Hey my friends, what's cooking? I've been dying to share this video with you. Unfortunately, this car's dance card has been a wee bit full. So we just did Jay Leno's garage. Perhaps you saw that video on YouTube. And then we took the car to SEMA, where it was selected top 5, yay! And that's out of like at least 1,000 crazy vehicles. And then it got selected into the Optima Top Street Car Challenge. So right at the end of the show, we went and raced it at the Vegas International Speedway. Good fun. Brought a lot of smiles and giggles out of the other contenders and the people present. Nothing like seeing a 58 Rolls Royce sliding around the bends with all these pro touring cars and late model muscle cars. It was good fun. So if you saw the Jay Leno video, you'll see that I quickly earned the nickname of Jonathan blah 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 Ward. Let me attempt to defend myself. The reason was I could see it in Jay's eyes and in his left leg when it started going 1,000 miles an hour that I was losing him. He couldn't stay with me through all the tech and details. So every time I started on one of my geek out rants, I stop myself and go, blah, 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 blah. So this is my channel. This is my video. So I'm going to geek out to my heart's content, and hopefully you guys can hang in there with me. If not, fast forward or move along. I will not be offended. So let's start at the very top. My client reached out and said, I appreciate the derelicts. I want a derelict. Now, my brother is the president of the local Rolls Royce Club. And I want to do something that's really fun and that offends him. So we said, all right, that's good. So we started focusing on a vintage Rolls derelict. Clouds are gorgeous, right? I mean, it's really hard to argue the physical presence and grace, beauty of these silver clouds. I mean, it's just, you can't argue that, right? Now, the interesting thing is they're pretty hard to find in this condition. Now, defining this condition, I mean, not a pig with lipstick on it, built for some auction, not a concours car fully restored, but one that has really good integrity and really good patina that no one has touched yet. So it took a while, but we found this car. We actually found it in Texas, and the car came with some kind of interesting history. It apparently was originally owned by a cosmetics firm, and what they used it for was impressing distributors and clients, you know, take them out to dinner when they visit or pick them up at the airport, stuff like that. So the car served in this manner for many, many years, and then it was retired. Well, then the CEO also retired, and as a departing gift to him, this cosmetics firm decided to take the car, send it back to England to have Rolls-Royce restore it, and then they gifted it to him. So very kind of them. Unfortunately, I don't think the guy ever used it. Worse yet, I don't think the guy ever put it in a garage. So it literally sat outside for decades in the Texas heat. So when I found it, it seemed like the perfect match. It looked like really good integrity and all that. So we grabbed it, we shipped it across country, and then we opened the door and went, oh! Literally, I did an Edward Munch scream, you know that painting? Because the inside of the car had the funkiest looking fungus and mold growing everywhere. Especially, it seemed, whatever this microorganism was, it really liked the wool carpets. And it was like fuzzy white stuff on top of fuzzy gray stuff on top of fuzzy white stuff. And we called a hazmat team. Maybe we're wimps, but we did not want to find out that it was an unhealthy situation, and it certainly appeared it might be. So we hired them to gut the interior and strip everything out, and then we jumped in. So all original cosmetics on the outside, couple pinholes and funk and dents and bruises, but again, that's part of the charm. One thing we did not anticipate, thank you British engineering, was that on the underside, you know, the bodies are really odd how they built them. It's like 2 layers of metals with no way to access the inside, nor drain plugs for anything to get out. So those of you that know me know I have a kind of a love-hate thing with British design. I always loved the look of British cars, but I've yet to see one where the execution was any good. Strong statement. I'm gonna stand behind that. So we found all sorts of unexpected rust on the underside. So we spent a couple hundred unexpected hours dealing with that. And then after all of that was etched and primed and sealed, and new drain plugs were created, new metal laced in, then we coated the underside of the body as well as the inside floors of the cabin and trunk, plus the inside of the fenders, in heat-coated polyurea prior to final assembly. Obviously, copious amounts of Dynamat and other sound-deadening products line the roof, the doors, the firewall, the trunk, the quarters, and the floors. Mechanically, this vehicle is commissioned by a client in Australia, so we had to be careful to build it in compliance with Australian laws, which are pretty wacky. So we kept the majority of the original chassis and we clipped the front, meaning we interfaced a front clip from Art Morrison that had all the suspension dynamics that we wanted. And then we laced in a 4-link rear suspension coilover to the stock chassis, which we reinforced. Another British comment, I promise, well, it'll be my second to last one. The chassis is 2 layers of sheet metal broke into C shapes, right? So 2 C's welded together, and then 2 more C's just put right on top of that with like some fish oil in it. So I don't know, maybe their brake couldn't handle the proper gauge of sheet metal, but I found that kind of odd. Anyway, so after all the chassis mods were done, media blasted it, zinc epoxy rich powder coated, primed it, and then mil spec black powder coat finish. For brakes, we're running, this is the first ICON Derelict, in fact, to take advantage of our partnership with Brembo. So we're running 6-piston Brembos in the front, 4-piston in the rear, 2-piece hat, slotted and vented rotors, and that is powered by a Hydro Boost Master. So serious brakes, serious car, seriously heavy car. Actually, speaking of weight, the original car weighed in at 4,600 pounds. It now weighs 4,040 pounds. And perhaps more importantly, 4 corners equal weight. Engine sits very low, pretty far back to the rear in the bay, and really had a big impact on the quality and the handling of this car. The car is super tight for such a big boat. Let's see what else. Let's see, covered suspension, cooling system. Good friends at Griffin. We CAD engineered the radiator with them with electric fans, and then that's purpose built for this car, and it worked out really nice. The engine, LS7, one of my personal favorites. And the cool thing is you keep your foot out of it. This car is pretty mellow, doesn't make a big fuss, but you put your foot into it. And it's a whole different party. This car is just a beast. It's got that Jekyll and Hyde personality, which is something I always appreciate in what we build. The exhaust is a little bit rowdier than what I would normally do, but my client said, quote, he would like to scare small children, so we accommodated him. We're running all TIG welded, mandrel bent stainless steel, including custom built headers, long pipe headers, and then dual exhaust that exits 3/4 with a downward dump. So you get really good, like you go through a parking garage, you're gonna set off all the car alarms unless you're like idling. But anyway, there's that. For transmission, the 4L85E 3/4 ton automatic. We dialed in the shift pressures and all the dynamics to our liking to match this motor and the client's taste. And the result is a very nice, very quiet, smooth shifting 4-speed with overdrive. Overbuilt drive shaft, of course, strange 9-inch rear, limited slip, and yeah, that's pretty much it for primary mechanical. For other engineering in the mechanical context, mil-spec electrical, so the Lucas, Prince of Darkness, has thoroughly been excised. So the gauges, while they appear to be the stock Smith units, they're actually completely redesigned. So we restored the faces to look stock, but then behind the scene is all circuit board electronic based for accuracy. We modified the speedo for digital trip and odo, and also did it in kilometers again because it's off to Oz. The rest of the dash, it may appear stock at first glance, but it's been kind of heavily modified. So we're now supporting modern functions such as air conditioning and cruise control, which there were no provisions for in the stock dash. So while all of the beautiful inlaid hardwood is all brand new, fully restored from the original wood, we took some liberties to the dash and redesigned it and created solutions for the cruise and the modern AC. You'll notice that all of the typeface that we added for those functions, we used the original font or typeface, and then the knobs, we recreated knobs that appear to be the stock Rolls ones, but they're CNC'd in stainless and designed to fit our modern switches. We're running the Vintage Air Gen 4, one of my favorite units for AC. And then we came up with this cool like micro stainless mesh for the AC vent covers. We used that same mesh on the speaker grill housings. The speakers in the rear are on the rear package tray, and in the front are hidden under the dash. The head unit is a JVC supporting CarPlay and nav, front camera, rear camera, Bluetooth, blah, 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 everything you'd expect. We designed that head unit to fit in what would have been a storage box, and we modified the face of that storage box, so now you attach it with magnets if you do not want to see the modern audio, and it keeps a really nice, clean, vintage look. We also added trouble lights for hazard, cruise, on, and parking brake. Parking brake, we kept what appears to be the original analog handle, but those cable systems don't work that well. We really prefer e-stop, which is a new product that uses like an electric motor to a worm gear to pull on that cable. That comes with an audible warning, so you can't be an idiot and pull away with that parking brake snugged up. All lighting is LED, all connectors are triple seal Packards or Deutsch, and then the main firewall trunk connects are those nifty aerospace ones that we use on our production icons because I love them. What else? Hot rod column that really worked out nice because it kept that classic look in that it is polished stainless steel, but it allowed us to index the column shifter for the modern transmission as well as a turn signal assembly. We in-house machined the arms and knobs for those because unfortunately they had dissimilar plastic knobs or handles that look like a really crappy 5 and dime 1970s like screwdriver. They just sucked, so we spent a little extra time on that. Also, the column would not have looked good with a prindle indicating your gears, so we used the in-dash one and integrated that in a subtle spot right in front of the driver. Steering wheel, we looked long and hard to keep that wheel. It's one of those cars, in my opinion, you don't want to screw with the wheel. It's a big part of the look. So we modified that and made it work with the modern hot rod column. Stock horn functions, steering wheel is unrestored, and then we leather wrapped it in extra scrap leather from the rest of the interior. Speaking of extra scrap leather from the interior, if you guys follow my shenanigans on Instagram, you will know that I am a budding leather craftsman, and I've been kind of OCD on that for a while. Shocker, right? Anyway, I took some of the leftover leather and made my client a nice little notebook for his glove box. I'm getting better. In fact, my new work's way better than it, but it was fun to do, and I hope he appreciates it. Mirrors, we left the stock European front fender mounted mirrors, which I dig, and this glorious one mounted on the dash. Headliner, we did dead stock, and that's in this lovely wool fabric. The visors, we did in the 2 different leathers I chose for the car. Speaking of leathers, had this leather made. I wanted a pebble grain. I wanted a full aniline dye. I wanted it to be nice and thick, but not to be UV stable. Why, you may ask? Well, because I wanted to keep that patina effect. You know, if I'd used the stock Connolly leather, It'd be gorgeous, but it would take literally like 20 years to get some funk. So by using this Morin Gilles leathers, it just already has a nice surface effect. It looks like we didn't just do it last week, you know? We left the front seat stock. We extended the floor tracks for more travel. And then we added these nifty little billet cup holders in the front of the seat. We redid the foam in contemporary foam, so it's like a Tempur-Pedic, like a memory foam, so it's just a hell of a lot more comfortable. The back seat, how glorious is that back seat, man? They really nailed the design on that, so I didn't screw with it other than the piping and the layout, but I left the primary pattern as stock. These little vanity mirrors in the rear quarters, those are so cool. So obviously we restored the leather work, but left those stock. Other than being an LED geek, that as well as the beautiful dome light, and then we added some environmental lights down low in the kick vents and then in the cool little cubbies in the door. So at night it has an adjustable low output glow for the flooring, and same with that vanity light. We also started playing with dimmers and taking more control over lighting in subtle ways, but I really dig it. So the dome light, for example, stays on for like 30 seconds after you close the door, and then it subtly fades out. It opens full on and then fades out. What else can we geek out on? Hey, a coyote. Wow, right in the middle of the day. Carpet, Wilton wool, proper for the car. Backed in all sorts of sound deadening goodness. Carpet mats, a darker green, because the whole point of those is they're kind of mud mats. You can beat them up and keep them cleaner than you could that lighter gray green. Glass is all factory, no tint, but all new. All new weather stripping, latches and catches and all the goodies. 3-point seat belts have been added. What else? I left it manual for the windows and the door locks, the client's request. Obviously, if we had done power, we would have done those nifty new relics and kept it subtle. Oh, man, I know. Oh, the trunk's pretty cool. We fully finished the trunk in leather and in the Wilton wool. The wool sections are removable if you want to get really dirty with it. Then you have the polyurea surface. We could no longer fit a spare, but we left the 2-story original trunk design. And then in that lower section is where we hid the electronics. Fuse panel, you notice, is under there. That's all modern Bosch relays and modern car micro fuses, so client doesn't have to hunt down any super freak components. And then instead of a spare, we built in a little rack, so you have a good old fix-a-flat, which hopefully will save the day. Also in the trunk, you never know it, maybe I have some stills I'll share with you, but there's a false wall in the trunk to hide the amplifiers and the bass. So bass, being omnidirectional, does not suffer in audio quality by being back there, but it just keeps it nice and chill, nice and hidden, and then that panel is removable if there's any service needs. Same with the fuel tank. We made our own tank, stainless steel, and we created an access panel, so if you ever have to service the OEM GM fuel pump, you just unbolt that panel and you don't have to drop the whole thing. Tunable sway bars all the way around. The ICON Lizard, in this case, he went up on the hood. He likes the sun, so we'll always move him around, but it seems more often than not, I like to put him up on the hoods. Front camera, you'll never find, it's totally hidden. Same with the rear camera, it's nicely integrated. The rear comes on in reverse, the front comes on at very low speed, and then you have a toggle to switch out between the cameras if you want. I don't know, that's probably enough. Looks like we're tracking at about 20 minutes. I don't want to exhaust your patience if you're actually still with us. Thank you guys so much for following my brand. It means so much to me. You know, just the fact that you understand and spread the word about our antics, I really appreciate that. So any further questions, reach out. Old school telephone, 818-280-3333. The website, of course, is ICON4x4. Facebook is ICON Design. Instagram's ICON4x4. and Twitter's Icon Design. That's all I got. You guys be well, and until next time, see ya.